We will be watching history this Sunday as Tom Brady is stepping foot back into the NFL stadium, not as a player, but as a broadcaster. Ryan is super excited. Arguably, is going to be his favorite game for the entire week one, as he is going to be broadcasting the Dallas Cowboys and Cleveland Browns week one matchup. Cowboys had a phenomenal 2023 season, and so did the Browns with all the weird up and down and injuries that they had. And both teams are looking to continue the trend and maybe even make a further push come January and potentially host up the Lombardi Trophy. We're going to break down the entire game and what you can expect and some of the strengths and weaknesses of each team. But before we do that, if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the Tracy Take. And while you're at it, leave a like and a comment on who you think is going to win this game. Ryan, want to throw it over to you here real quick. The Cowboys, one, congratulations to CeeDee Lamb. You just got paid and are buying everybody drinks this weekend. The Browns, once again, on paper, they've made all the right moves. It looks like they have a tremendous team. Nick Chubb will not be playing in this game. He'll be on the PUP list, but glad to see he is going to be back and playing at some point this season. On paper, I think both these teams have legitimate shots, I think, to be hosting up the Lombardi Trophy as well.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, though, on paper versus reality, I think for both of these franchises over the past 25 years, the Browns for forever, has not normally panned out the way that they would like it. What do you think of both of these teams entering this week one matchup?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions, I think, about both teams, specifically, I think, on the offensive side of the ball that need to be answered. Last year, CeeDee Lamb had, I think it was the 7th or 8th best season ever by a wide receiver. Kind of went under the radar because Tyreek Hill had the 4th or 5th. But
yeah, it's weird.
And to me, I think he was a third of their total offensive production. And so can the Cowboys figure out ways to have offensive production not through CeeDee Lamb? I think that's one big question there. Can they run the ball maybe a little bit more effectively? And how does this offensive line hold up? Losing Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz. They got rookie Tyler Guyton playing left tackle. Brock Hoffman is now the center there. They have Cooper Beebe slotted in to back him up here on Our Lads. They still have Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. But other than that, it's going to be really interesting, I think, watching this Dallas team because there are still a decent bit of questions. And the last time we saw them, this defense got gashed. Then they lost their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. And so how do things kind of shape up on that end of the ball? We will see Trayvon Diggs back as well. However, who was the guy that got all the pick sixes last year? Deron Bland, I think, is going to he was placed on the PUP list, and it will be out for the first few games, or the first 4 games at least. And so I think that's going to be interesting to kind of see, where on the flip side, Cleveland had a successful offensive year. It was weird because it was Joe Flacco. They had 3 or 4 different offensive line combinations throughout the whole year, specifically with lots of injuries at tackle.
They had 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah. And just injuries all around. But to me, the one thing that was always consistent with this team was they were going to play great defense. And when you have a guy like Myles Garrett, who at this point is a surefire Hall of Famer, he is a complete game changer. Then you throw Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward on the back end. I think that's just a really great tandem, especially with the pass rush that they've been able to put together. And I think that is going to be the biggest matchup of this game, is how well can this Cowboys offense, specifically offensive line, hold off this pass rush? Can they get CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks time to actually get down the field, or is it just going to be a free-for-all kind of going after Dak Prescott? So I'm really interested to see that. This is a really intriguing matchup because these are 2 teams who I think the fan bases have at least late playoff aspirations. Maybe more so the Cowboys, but I could see situations where neither of these teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into that as the season goes on here. But it is possible. I could see, especially too, if things don't pan out for either team, and the AFC is just so loaded in general that I could see the Browns potentially not making it. We'll be talking about that all throughout the entire season. And let's take a look at the game in a deeper aspect of it. Let's look at what the betting markets are saying as of the recording of this video here. If you do like to put a couple bucks down on the game, go ahead and check out the link below in the description box. As BetUS has a bunch of great promotions going on right now for first-time players that you're not going to miss. They currently have the Browns as 1-point favorites and the over-under at 42. Essentially, it is a pick-em game as of right now. And I think that's absolutely fair because I think, to your point, I think CeeDee Lamb alone in and of itself kind of already is equal to at least I think what the Browns are able to put together in their receiving room. They have a good receiving room with Amari Cooper. They traded for Jerry Jeudy. There's one other guy that I'm missing also as well. They got David Njoku. Also, they have a great offensive line, which allows for Jerome Ford or whichever running back in the backfield to be successful. That all being said, though, too, you still have Mike McCarthy, who admittedly surprised me in how well he was able to put together this offense last year. And CeeDee Lamb had an amazing season. They still got Brandon Cooks there. They still got Jake Ferguson. Bringing back Zeke and Dalvin Cook as of today, as signed with the practice squad. So that'll be fun if they're both able to kind of do a running back tandem. And so there is some opportunity here. And not even, actually, I say that like Ezekiel Elliott, it's not like we're going to be expecting too much from him. They could have run the ball last year. I'm not expecting them to run the ball again. I still think they're going to win these games in shootouts. I think, to your point, if this Cowboys offensive line is not really able to handle Myles Garrett, I don't think they have a shot in this game. Personally, and so it would be the Cowboys. It would have to be the Browns and Kevin Stefanski kind of giving the Cowboys the game here because they should be able to methodically move the ball down the field with the different options that they have. And then they should be able to run the ball, I think, pretty effectively as well. Honestly, we saw it a lot last year, and that would be a pretty good game plan is if you're going to run the ball, find Micah Parsons and just run it his way just because it really just eliminates his strengths, and also you can double team him easily and create these running lanes. So if they are able to do that, though, I think it would be very interesting if this turned into a shootout because I feel like the Browns don't really want this game to go into a shootout. Even though I think they're capable and they can be built for it, I don't think they want this game to go into a shootout because that leads into a Cowboys to more probability the Cowboys can win.
Yeah, in that, I think you look at this Browns team, they're built heavy in the trenches. Jack Conklin, Wyatt Teller, Ethan Pochich, Joel Bitonio, and Jedrick Wills, all those guys will be healthy this go-around. This does remind me a little bit, and I know it's slightly different because this was a winter game and Dallas is a Southern team, a Southern Dome team. But like last year when they went up to the Bills, and the Bills just like were so much better than them in the trenches, and they really just dominated. And I think that if you look at who the Cowboys have been really over the last like 2 or 3 seasons, they beat up really bad on the bad teams. Like look at that New England game last year. They beat them like 49-10. And I don't even know if New England got 10 points, but then they go to Buffalo. They lay an egg. And none of the games that they play against true playoff caliber teams ever go well for them. It doesn't feel like that they go. It doesn't feel like they ever really go Dallas's way. So kind of getting into the predictions here, I'm going with Cleveland. I think they're going to out physical them in the trenches. I think that is Dallas's kryptonite is teams that are willing to come in there and not even necessarily play clean football, but just make it physical and just, all right, well, my guys are bigger and meaner than your guys, and you can't do anything about it. That's just how it's going to be. And I think that's what Cleveland is exactly.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you as well. First game of the season, Cleveland is going to be entirely fresh in all aspects. I think on the offensive side of the ball, they have enough. And Elijah Moore was the third receiver as well. So I really like that overall receiver room. Then you have David Njoku. They have their overall capabilities to run the ball. It's just going to be can Deshaun Watson just be an average quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. But I think on the defensive side of the ball, the number one matchup that the Cowboys need to be worried about is an offensive line against that defensive front. Because if they are able to stymie them and maybe be able to run the ball a little bit, create some time for Deshaun Watson to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, or Jake Ferguson, whoever it may be, then I think they have a shot. But if they are just keep getting pounded and pounded and just constant pressure, constantly putting the blitz on and getting sacked, I just don't see how the Cowboys can sustain that over a 4-quarter period. They'll get a couple. I think of big gains, from that where they'll burn either Greg Newsome or who's their other guy,
Denzel Ward.
Yeah, and so just because CeeDee Lamb is just that good of a receiver, but overall, though, over the 4 quarters, I think the Browns will just wear them down.
Yeah, and that to me, I think, I don't envision this actually being a high-scoring game as much as we've talked about it. I think it's going to be like 24-14 in favor of the Browns. Just I think there's going to be a lot of running. Deshaun Watson, I think they're going to have on I don't want to say on a pitch count, but they're only going to have him throw the ball, I think, a certain number of times just to continue to get back in the rhythm of being a starter. He did kind of figure things out at the end of last year up in Cleveland, and so I'm very interested to see kind of what he looks like going forward. But yeah, I think Cleveland wins a very physical, one-sided game that I think maybe Dallas puts up a late touchdown in to make 24-14 or like 24-17 or something. So
I was gonna say 24-17. That it was going to be a late field goal and try and get an onside kick.
Yeah, the first proclaimed onside kick with the new kickoff rules. Yeah. So, all right, let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. Will it be the Dallas Cowboys? Will it be the Cleveland Browns? On that, we will see you guys next time.